BJ Counsel. I view the world through the lens of having been followed by a white clerk as a child while shopping in a five and dime. I'm a retired police executive and own UN50, which gives guidance on surviving interactions with police.
I'm Harmony Chavis, and I view the world through the lens of one of the most misunderstood and diverse generations in our nation's history. I'm a social worker and a believer of radical kindness and love as modalities of healing.
My name is Andrew Counsel. I view the world through the lens of a generational camera phone. I wake up as a black male and go to bed as a black male. I am surviving this never-ending court case we commonly call life in the best way I know how.
So welcome back, everybody, to UN50. Hope everybody had a really good first of the year. There's a lot going on. I saw a meme somewhere that at least we got through the first 5 days of January and everything was good. So here we are. And also just want to kind of reiterate some of the stuff that we talked about. And one of the things, and thanks to Harmony, and I'll get her to say something in a few minutes, she kind of set the tone for UN50, especially for the podcast this year, about being compassionate and humane as we move forward and on some of these topics that we talk about. So thank you for that, Harmony, the stuff that you've done for us, and that conversation that you and I had on the first podcast. So I really appreciate it. So how's it going, Harmony?
It's good. I'm on my lunch break right now. So if that doesn't show dedication, I don't know what does. But I'm good. Did you have a good MLK day yesterday? Did you do anything special?
No, I didn't. I didn't do anything until today. A friend of mine gave me a call to listen to Michael Eric Dyson, who did a speech at the Mass Cathedral or something. I forgot where. He did a really good job. Actually, it was very moving, and he was a letter to America I was based on a letter from St. Paul. And he did it as if he was writing to America. It's really good. You might want to take a look at it. Yeah, and one of the things that he said was, one of the quotes from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Herschel was, "Few are guilty, but all are responsible." And for some reason, that just really resonated with me, especially the work that we're doing, and especially law enforcement. There are a few folks out there that are guilty, but all of us are responsible for making things better. And I don't know, I just really like that. So anyway, so that's kind of where we are. Thanks again. My nephew, again, is not with us tonight. He got an internship, so when he gets here, he has to tell us all about it. Hopefully he'll be here with us the next time that we record. So anyway, want to welcome back. I think most of you who have been with us or hopefully have listened to our Defund Police. We did that with some of my ex-colleagues, and we're all retired colleagues now, which is really good. And so they're back. One person is not here. His name is Terrence Sibley, retired assistant police chief. And I have Mr. Jesse Burwell, who I affectionately call Mr. Cash. And then Winslow Forbes, who is also a retired assistant chief. So welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How was your holiday? Because I hadn't really chatted with either one of you since I think it may be in my email. So, Jesse, how was your Christmas holiday?
It was actually great. My daughter came down from South Carolina and spent about a week with us.
Nice.
And we had a good time.
Good. What'd you guys do for New Year's Eve?
Stayed home, watched television.
Did you stay awake until midnight, or you just?
I actually made it.
Oh,
a little past midnight. Yes, I did.
The older you get, it's all about, can you make it to 12 o'clock? Can you make it?
That's right. Right. I'm a boomer too.
Exactly. Yep. What's up, Mr. Forbes? How was your Christmas holiday?
My Christmas was wonderful. I was home. And for New Year's, we had a church service via Zoom. So I was up to watch the New Year come in. And then I just kind of relaxed and stayed up and looked at a little television.
Did you make it?
I made it.
Good. Yeah, I know Harmony made it, so I ain't gonna bother to ask her. I know she.
Are you kidding me? I barely made it.
Oh.
And we turned it, so I don't have cable. I just use my internet. So I was like, I'm gonna go to YouTube. And we went to the ball drop and we got to 0 and it said ball dropping soon. And then it started counting down again. So I was like, okay, we were wrong. And then it did the same thing. So the ball never dropped. And after that I was a little pissed off. So I just went to sleep. I know I was a little nervous. I'm like, what if this is indicative of what's to come? Because this is not a good start.
I know, right? I know. So what I want to do first, I want to ask 2 questions. I want to ask, if I remember how I wrote the question, what I want to ask each of you is now that you've lived, you've survived 2020. We've all lived through 2020. And because you've lived through 2020, who are you now because of that? Because we've all experienced something. So having lived through 2020, Jesse, who do you think you are now?
Wow. I mean, 2020 was a really rough year, but I have to say that, God has truly blessed me and my family. No one in my immediate family got sick or died from COVID. And it really has altered the way we live, because pretty much still we're not getting out unless it's somewhere we have to go, like, the doctor's office, been to the dentist's office, grocery store, places that you kind of have to go.
Yeah.
And, I keep my distance from folk.
Yeah.
And I wear that mask.
Yeah.
And so, we've been blessed not to get sick.
Yeah.
And it has made me a person that appreciates what I have even more because of this, experience, because, haven't lost anything, don't have a mortgage to pay. And I just feel really blessed through all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. That, if nothing else, you got to come out on the other side of that just feeling really blessed with what you got. Yeah.
Yes.
What you got. What about you, Pastor Forbes?
Well, I pretty much feel the same way as Chief Burwell. 2020 was a different year, I would say, from the standpoint, I like to travel, so I didn't get an opportunity to travel. I like to socialize, be with people, have fun, and was not able to do that. As Chief Burwell said, I had to pretty much stay home. I did visit my mom, but I will say that, I know some church members that caught COVID, and I actually know someone that passed away, 2 people that passed away from COVID. So when 2021 came in, I felt very grateful. Every day that I wake up now, the first thing that I try to do is when I wake up and say, thank you, Lord, for another day. I think 2020 have taught us not to take things for granted, because no matter who you are, no matter your financial situation, COVID did not discriminate, and it's not discriminating against anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Harmony, you want to tackle it, or, I was kind of saving it for my guests, but I'd love to hear from you though.
I think that for me, it's just that you have to ride the wave. You know what I mean? Like, life is not this finite destination of either ups or downs. It's really the fluctuation of it. So learning to be present and conscious as you move through those ebbs and flows of human experience, and learning not to judge those states as right or wrong, but merely a reflection of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And then I think the second big thing would be to value every single human connection and interaction. I think right now, especially, people are just on edge. Everybody's volatile. I mean, it's a really crazy time even now, especially with the inauguration being tomorrow. I just feel like people are tense.
Yes.
So just trying to, I don't know, just find the beauty in every human interaction. I went to get some dinner on Saturday night at this local Japanese restaurant, and the waitress was worried that I didn't like my soup, and I told her I had burnt myself because it was too hot. Shocker. And she did the sweetest thing. She came back with this orange half that was like cut up, and then she put toothpicks in it for us. And she was like,
Oh,
"These are
wow.
very, very good, and I wanted to share them with you."
Oh,
And you know what I
wow.
mean? Maybe another time that might have been something that I overlooked, but the fact that two people from two completely different cultures are able to just share in this moment of like communion and gathering for me was very special. So just trying to appreciate those moments and really look for a chance to create them.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. I think all three of us, and what the running theme for me, and I think for me too, is just appreciative, of what I have and who I have, and taking nothing for and enjoying it. I mean, just and going and enjoying life. How and just the small thing. I mean, just going outside and walking. Taking the time to enjoy the beauty that's around us. Because kind of forced me to do more. I mean, I always kind of did that anyway, but now I really pay attention to that. So thank you guys for that. We're going to try to ask some of our guests some of those questions. So we just got a couple of things I just want to run by real quick. Defunding police. That was the last thing that we talked about. And I'm just interested, Jesse and Forbes. I mean, we had that conversation and just wondering, if you had some friends that may have listened to that podcast, what their thoughts were about it, input from them, any, viewpoints that they may have had, or was like, well, I didn't know it was like that, and that kind of stuff. So just kind of want to just briefly get some input as to people who may have listened to that podcast. Did they learn anything from it, or are they looking at it through a different lens now?
I would say that the people that I spoke to, yes, I think they did learn something from it. One thing is when we talked about the impact of when you take away one unit, how it can hurt the community. And most of the people that I spoke with, I think they have a different look at it from the standpoint now. They don't think that the police should be defunded, but they want to see changes in the police department. And I also as well spoke to some that's on the police department, and I can tell you that it's a difference when you lose a unit or you have to make a switch because you don't have the funding to do what you need to do.
Right.
And so some of those guys feel like if that happened, that they would not be able to do their job and serve the community in a way that they should serve the community.
Right. Okay. Cool. Mr. Burwell, Jesse.
Well, the people that I talked to, a lot depended on their age. Younger people still like defund. Older people don't want to defund, particularly now when like in Durham, I think crime is on the rise a little bit. But, older people want to sit down and talk about having real meaningful change in police culture.
Right.
And younger folk, I'd say in teens and early 20s, defund. Right. So that's pretty much it. It just depends on the age group that I talk to. The perspective is different.
Yeah. And I totally get that. I think that's probably just having the ability to have that conversation. So there's a better understanding of what that really means. Because I was listening to Chief Davis, I think it was, September. After we had done this, and December, I guess, and all the shootings that have been going on.
Yes.
The retaliatory shooting. And so what I don't remember exactly how she said, but basically what I got from our conversation was like, you're the community services unit. They utilize those individuals in the community services unit. She was reporting to the city council persons, and she was basically saying, because of all the stuff that's going on, she was taking those individuals and using them to go into the community to give information and disseminate information as to what was going on to the communities, right? And in different parts of the city. And when she said that, I thought about our program, that's exactly what would not happen if we defund police.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started thinking, so that's a perfect example of her using another resource besides the 911 call taker. She's using another unit in the agency. But if we defund, she would not have that capability of sending officers into the community to give out information about their concerns about this stuff that's going on. So when people may not think about it like that, but we just kind of let people, that would be a good example to let people know, well, you would not know or wouldn't get information from the police about the crimes and these shootings that are going on because we defunded and they're not there. So when it starts to hit home like that, I think people realize, oh, okay, now I get it. So yeah, so I think we had a pretty good amount of folks that downloaded that's particular. It was running pretty close to the first one that we did with the patrol slaves. And it was pushing, I don't know whether we hit 40, but I mean, for me, I know I'm just a little podcast, but for me, I was excited. So a lot of people did that. So I appreciate that. So the other thing real quick is Capitol Police, this incident, the taking over of that from a perspective of law enforcement. The three of us know that there was a catastrophic failure somewhere on preparing for that. Whether it was, people are talking about, who knows what happened, but there was, on the outside looking in, it looks like I mean, if hotels and businesses are boarding up, that's a clue. They think it's if nothing else. They kind of taking a clue from the businesses that something about to happen. And so yeah. So Harmony, I'll let you go first as far as we kind of want to just talk about from our perspective. We know that usually you're going to be connecting with other agencies to prepare for something like that, and it's just clear to most of us who are in law enforcement on the outside, something failed miserably.
I think from my perspective, it didn't necessarily fail miserably. It happened as it was intended to happen.
Okay.
Not everybody was in on it, I don't think, but like, I don't understand how these people can get through barricades. And did you see the photo of there were a couple officers moving the barricades and you know what I mean? Like, yes, telling people to come on through here. Yes. So even if it was just, those one or two, they were the first line of defense and it wasn't a failure. That's what they intended to do. So I think that it's important to make that distinction because these people are criminals.
Can I say something about that?
Go right ahead.
So here's what I think happened, Harmony, as Deputy Chief was saying, someone from up higher have to tell those officers what to do, okay? And they should have been better prepared. And I really don't think the front line, from my perspective, the front line officers should be the one that take the hit on this, because when you got thousands of people coming at you like they had, it's just impossible. There's no way you can stop them. And so more than likely, even though I wasn't there, but more than likely, someone probably gave them that order to just let the people bypass. And then, as more video came out, you would see that there was a location where they actually tried to stop the people, but they could not, even to the point where one officer said that he was trying to make the decision, hey, should I pull my gun out and start shooting? But if I do that, then, okay, I'm not only going to get but a certain number, then they're going to take my gun and they're going to kill me. He said, so then the next thing came to his mind, okay, let me see if I can hit them from the humanity side by saying I have children. So he said, once he started saying, I got children, then what happened was some of the people began to surround him to actually protect him. So I think the higher up, whoever it came from the top, and probably someone above the chief, made a decision for them not to be prepared as they should have been. And also keep in mind that the local police, when we're talking about DC police, that was on a federal building, so they just can't go on federal property without being invited, because there's not a jurisdiction too. And I think a lot of people is missing that, because the news reported that it was like 3 to 5 times more arrests for the Black Lives Matter movement versus this. However, they was talking about DC police, but DC police wasn't in on the front end because they were not invited to be there on the front end. So you're going to have a difference in the arrest.
But then I guess it begs to question, like you said, why was there not more preparation from the higher ups? You know what I mean? So I feel like people that are seasoned in law enforcement and they have any type of experience with white supremacy, there should be, at least I would hope that there would be some type of natural inclination to know that these types of people tend to be violent. And I guess that's the type of passiveness that I'm talking about. Because when the Black Lives Matter protesters were there was so much security. Granted, I do understand what you're saying about, a federal building, but now there's a National Guard. So I just don't understand how these people fail to prepare. And not take white supremacy as the threat to our country as it is. And that to me, I think is even more impactful than just the individual officers. It's that systemic high level failure because of how we view Black people and then how we view white people.
Right. So again, I think the order came from above the chief, because even the chief said that he had reached out to Pentagon and the help of the National Guard, right? So it's just like in the city of Durham, even though you may have a police chief, but we all know in certain situations, you're going to get your orders from the city council or the city manager.
Sure. So who do you think was, I guess, because I don't understand, the structure, I'm assuming that whoever told them no was that Trump who said no? We're not going to invoke the National Guard. Do you know who that decision would come from? I'm just curious now, since you're talking about the breakdown.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has influence in that.
No, he does, Forbes. I mean, the National Guard cannot be.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Only I'm not.
Yeah, and that was one of the issues that they were having. At some point, Pence was trying to get in contact because National Guard isn't under the vice president's purview.
Yeah.
So the green light had to be given by Trump because it's under his purview and because statehood does not belong to DC. Right. And so and which, to what Harmon is saying, but National Guard were there when he walked across the street and held a Bible upside down, so they were there for that, but that's because he gave the green light for that. So,
correct.
So the bottom line is, I think the relationships between DC and Jesse knows this. I mean, it's all about getting those MOUs done prior to.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know whether
you
you
tell us what
that,
that stands for. MOU.
Memorandum of Understanding. It's an agreement.
Mutual aid agreement.
Two or more law enforcement agencies of what they agree to do if one needs the other.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And so based on the little bit I've been trying to stay on top of it, Richmond and Maryland. I mean, those guys are probably sitting in idle waiting for the call. And it just never came. But, you're right there, why wasn't all that taken care of? So, I mean, I'm sure at some point, there will be a commission. It's like they normally do. They'll try to find out what's going on. But it's just not a good look. And it's not a good look that you've got, officers inside Capitol Police and inside the Capitol, off-duty police officers. Did you guys see that? I thought it was Rocky Mount, North Carolina, but it was Rocky Mount, Virginia.
Yeah. That's what I thought at first too.
So that's not a good look at all. So yeah, so it's, it just puts more heavy lifting on the backs of law enforcement. It really, it's like, it's just going to be a lot of work. So anyway, so yeah.
Also, BJ, from a millennial perspective, I was reading this this article about how women in the DC area were noticing a lot of like Trump supporters, like a very different demographic than they were used to seeing on, I think it was Bumble. And so then they started changing their political affiliation from Democrat to Republican so that they could identify these guys that were in the Capitol. And some of them were like boasting on the internet to these girls. Some of them had photos of themselves there and they were forwarding it to the FBI. I don't necessarily know like what the what the end game was, but I just think it's interesting how millennials continue to just use the internet. You can't do anything anymore without being caught.
Right.
You can't.
Right. Yeah. Wow. I didn't heard that. That's
yeah.
Oh, well, my hat's off to the millennials, secret squirrels, right? Yeah. So I was, I was I'm not gonna do it. I was gonna talk to my producer, but I think I'm not going to. Did you guys get a chance to listen to the interview with Mr. Jacob Blake, the young man that was shot 7 times? Did you guys get a chance to?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw some of it when
Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
Any comments from you, Jesse?
Well, and looking at the video, I think he would have fared a lot better if he hadn't kept walking away.
Mm.
And he did have a knife on him, which I think he dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Then, for whatever reason, he picked it back up.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember him saying he didn't hear anybody telling him to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all remember him saying that?
Yeah. He said, he said he wasn't thinking clearly. Yeah, he wasn't hearing anybody.
Yeah, he wasn't thinking clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably they told him to stop, but maybe because he wasn't thinking clearly and he wasn't focused on what they were saying, that because I just can't, it's hard for me to believe that they didn't tell him to stop, get down, whatever. And I think it's just my opinion that he may not have gotten shot if he had just kind of stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe got down on the ground if that's what they indeed told him to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when he kept walking and opened that door, that's why they're not going to convict anybody, I think, because I think the officers may have truly thought that their lives were in danger, that he was reaching for a firearm. It's just better when you follow police officers' command and when you're in the field like that. And if you think you've been mistreated, then, go through the system to try to get justice later. Because at the end of the day, he could have easily lost his life. And a lot of people that I've talked to don't understand why the police officer had to shoot him 7 times.
Yeah, that's excessive. I'm sorry.
That's excessive.
That's no matter how you say it.
Yeah,
that's excessive.
That's excessive.
That's just excessive.
It's
excessive.
So I don't know. It's a hard situation.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of the young folk I talked to don't believe they would have shot a white person 7 times.
Okay.
Or a white person would have been shot at all.
Right.
Because it's a lot of video clips out there on the internet of white officers coming in contact with white citizens, trying to make an arrest. They're very uncooperative and they don't get shot.
Right.
So what I try to tell folk like that is, every situation is different. Every officer is different.
Yeah.
So where this officer may not have shot this white person that he's trying to arrest, another one may have.
Right.
Because believe it or not, police shoot more whites than blacks. And I'm not trying to say that justifies it at all.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to say white folk get shot too.
Right.
But the white community doesn't react the same way. I was looking at a website last night. It was a database put together by the Washington Post.
Mm-hmm.
And that database contained records of every fatal shooting in the United States by a police officer in the line of duty since January the 1st of 2015 through the end of the current calendar year, which was December 31st, 2020.
Right.
And it was recently updated. But anyway, over that 5-year period, a total of 5,960 people have been fatally shot by police. 2,729 of those fatally shot were white. 1,424 were Black. 998 were Hispanic. 225 were classified as other, and 584, the race was unknown.
Right.
So of that total amount, that 2,729, 46%, that figure was 46% of the total, and 46% of that total were white. 24% were Black. And when you get into percentages can be kind of tricky. And we are shot from a percentage basis, probably a whole lot more than what we should be. When you look at that, we make up only about 13% of the total population in the United States.
That's right. That's right.
But they're shooting 24% of us. If that information in the Washington Post database is correct. I can't vouch for its correctness.
Yeah, I mean, everybody uses that data because they've been using it, and I mean a lot of people refer back to that. I mean, even I have looked at that data, so that is a database that a lot of people. Some of the stuff is missing. I think they could do a little more, but at least they give you something to work with. So yeah, right. I hear you, but yeah, and to just push back on that a little bit, it is about the population of Black bodies versus. That's what we're talking about. It's like we're not that much of the U.S., but statistically, we're the ones that are getting shot the most. So, Forbes, you got any comment about the video?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much mostly what you and Chief Burwell was saying. But I will say, I know they said he shot Jacobs 7 times, but I think he actually was shot 5 times. The officer pulled the trigger 7 times, so I don't think I don't think he actually was hit 7 times.
Okay, but, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, but a different. Well, I saw one night on CNN when his attorney was talking. And the attorney said 7 times, and then when the commentator asked him, he said, "Well, okay, he was hit 5 times, but shot it."
Okay, but.
One, I guess a different look I want the people to understand is because I've been in a situation like this before. When you really, truly, and I'm not speaking for this officer, but myself. So I don't know, what was in his mind, if he was just, putting it through, he felt like the Jacob failed or what the situation was. Either way, it's a bad situation, but I'm glad he did survive. And that's pretty much my point of view on that.
Okay. I think what I'm trying to figure out is, I mean, he made a couple of comments. He said, I did resist. He resisted because he didn't want the officer's head on his neck. He pulled the tasers, the prongs out of him. From a learning perspective, I guess for the work that I do, I would love to know, because I want my child to come home. There kind of is a clue if you're being hit with tasers that the officers need you to stop doing whatever it is you're doing. Right. And then he actually admits to, I wasn't thinking clearly, and I get that. And I guess I want, when I do my work, and I use this as an example of, the reason that I do what I do is to try to help you slow down, to think clearly, so you don't end up either dead or spend the rest of your life inside of a wheelchair.
Right.
So.
BJ, can I add my social worky perspective to it really quickly?
Yeah.
So, I think of Black people and their experiences with police officers. I'll be honest with you, anytime I see a police get behind me, even if their lights aren't on, I'm nervous and I feel like my heart has sank into my stomach, literally every single time. And I've never had any type of run-in with the police. I got pulled over one time because my tags were expired for a year. And he was super nice, told me what I needed to do, how I could get it thrown out. I've never had any type of really bad experiences, but I think it goes to show just how instinctual it is for Black folks to run. I don't know if anybody's heard of Dr. Joy DeGruy, but she has this theory called post-traumatic slave syndrome that essentially says that a lot of our reactions and behaviors are almost primal or a part of our evolution as a people. And then I also, just like the officer may have been scared for his life, especially when this guy is making all of these movements, dropping the knife, picking the knife up. I can only imagine how he felt as a person of color, as anybody that's relatively conscious. I think we are constantly bombarded with I would call it an epidemic, honestly, of police brutality, especially over the summer. You couldn't go anywhere. The only thing you could do was watch TV.
Right.
And then, a lot of people were really moved by the video of George Floyd.
Yeah.
That causes a lot of secondhand trauma. And so I
Yes.
wonder, that
Yes.
I'm not thinking clearly, how much of that is anxiety, where I
Yes.
don't want his neck on my head. Maybe that was his way of saying, I want to get home. I want to
Yes.
get home.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to remember that, trauma has a way of making you not think clearly.
Right.
Adrenaline has a way of almost making you sort of like superhuman. Adrenaline
Yes.
does that.
Yes.
And in addition to that, I want to reiterate this for people that may be listening to this, because we do talk a lot about Black bodies, and we are all
Mhm.
people of color. But I think what's important to remember is that this anti-police brutality and defunding the police narrative is not only for Black people, it's for white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. It just so happens that just like every other civil rights movement in this country, Black people have carried the weight of it. They've done the work, and this is typical for Black folks. So just because it's not necessarily quote unquote focused on white folks, just like anything that Black people have done in this country, it has ultimately been for the advancement of white folks as well.
Right. Totally agree. Thank you, social worker.
What can I say? I need something that just says social justice warrior.
I know. We need to change your name in the bottom of your thing. But yeah, I mean, and I appreciate that, because you're right. Because I have to kind of check myself when I say, I need you to kind of nod. I need you to think calmly, because you're right. I mean, even I get a gut feeling when the popo pulls up behind me. I think we
And
all
you are
do.
the popo.
And I am
That's
the popo.
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and not so much that they're going to do me any harm. It's just like, damn, so that's kind of the feeling. But I also have to understand that that other Black folks' journey and interaction with law enforcement is a whole hell of a lot different than mine. And for him in that moment, like you said, it's with all the other trauma, and not just the trauma that he's dealing with in law enforcement perspective, but the trauma of being oppressed by other systems.
Right, exactly.
So that people are just dealing with, and it's like, oh, just one more system is beating me down, and I'm just got to, get to where I got to get. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for just talking about that. So I'm gonna get ready to kind of tighten this up, because one of the last
I've got
things,
to go back to work.
whatever. Yeah, you're gonna have lunch. I know what you're getting ready to do. So also, just so everybody knows, this is going to be a recurring show for us on UN50. And it's called We Are Allies, made up of individuals who work with the Durham Police Department and law enforcement officers, because one of the things that I have recognized during my time going into spaces trying to make difference in the community, that some community members do not see Black officers as allies, and we are. I was Black before I became the popo, and believe it or not, I'm still Black. And so, so we have stuff to offer. We've seen things, we know things, and we're here as allies to offer people some insight, different perspective. You won't always agree with our perspective, and even those of us in this conversation won't probably agree with some of the things that each of us say. So just so you know that We Are Allies is part of UN50, that we will be coming back periodically. In fact, we're going to be doing a live show on March 30th at 7 p.m. So hopefully you'll join that to be able to ask us any questions that you would like to ask. But we will be doing this maybe 3 or 4 times through the year, through the end of the year, that we will be getting together to talk about different things and different topics. But it is going to be decided. Well, talked about it with Jesse and Forbes, that we're going to call it We Are Allies. And again, because as Black folks who've been in law enforcement, work with law enforcement, we love the community just as much as those out there trying to make the change in those communities.
Hey,
So,
BJ, before you close it out, I was gonna say, you said that believe it or not, I'm still Black. You do look a little washed out to me. So for the untrained eye, they may not know that you're Black. So you might need to get some better lighting next time, because that's not, I
Thank
said
you.
what I said.
Yeah, I still love you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I am kind of washed out. So anyway, so thank you very much. I really appreciate Jesse and Forbes. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for wanting to be a part of UN50. And we really appreciate it. Harmony, thank you very much as always for your input and your insight that I love. And so we wish all of you the best. So we'll see you tonight, the next time. So and always stay well, stay safe, peace.